So last time we met, we treated program evaluation and review technique called PAT in short form. So by now, all of us should be able to assign tasks, get the duration of each task. We should know what to do when we want to assign tasks, task duration, by applying the optimistic, most likely, and pessimistic arithmetic to get the actual expected task duration by collaborating with our team. So that is sorted. We should know how to do that very well now. So if you don't know how to do it, we've uploaded a video. You can just go watch the video again. If you are still struggling, you can ask your team member or your classmates to explain. And if they can't do that, you can come back to me. So, and to make sure that everything is treated well, we've seen Gantt charts. We still need to briefly treat Gantt charts again, so that some of us who do not understand Gantt chart very well, we understand Gantt chart as a topic. You know, if you go to Project Labor, you can see Gantt chart is there. The software covers Gantt charts. So as we are scheduling, is already appearing in your Gantt chart. The Gantt chart is already appearing. So, but let's give it a brief shot again. So what is Gantt chart? A Gantt chart is a visual representation of a project schedule. It shows the start and end date of the task as well as the dependencies between every task. It's very simple, it's more like visual representation. What's the benefit? It helps in improving the communication and transparency of project schedule, easy identification of critical parts and project milestone, and the ability to track progress and identify potential delays. So these are key benefits. So how do we create a Gantt chart? Like I said earlier, if you are using this software, this project management software, as we are just listing and scheduling and estimating, the Gantt chart will automatically start to appear. So there is no special way to go and create Gantt chart. As you are creating it, it's just for you to recognize that the Gantt chart is appearing. So to do that is list all tasks, all the project tasks, estimate the duration of each task, identify dependencies between tasks, use a project management tool like Project Labor, Microsoft Project, or even spreadsheet to create the chart. So as you are creating these, as you are listing all this, you are automatically creating a Gantt chart. So plot tasks on timeline according to their start and date and end dates, and indicate dependencies. Once you plot tasks, put the duration of each task and put the dependencies, the Gantt chart will automatically appear. So this is it. Looking at this, I don't know if it's fine if you can see it. As you are looking at this, this is the task A, B, C to F. And if you, as you put this task, put the predecessor and put the duration, this Gantt chart will automatically appear. So there is no special way of creating a Gantt chart. You cannot say, when I finish creating this, I'll go here and start creating Gantt. No, you don't do that. Once you've created this, the Gantt chart has appeared. It's just for you to have the ability to recognize Gantt chart. And the main thing here, Gantt chart help us a lot to fish out the critical part in our project, areas we cannot delay. This, you see this red part here, the part in red color, they are called critical parts. You see them, they are critical. While working on a project, all these parts, you should try as much as you can not to play around here, because if anything happen, for instance, the duration, this is 4 days. If you happen to miss these 4 days, to do this 5 days is going to disrupt the whole activities in this project. That's why we call it critical part. So we work with, we trade with caution while working on this critical part. And this critical part is what is going to bring us, that is the main topic for today. So I just want to use this Gantt chart to prepare a ground for us to land on the critical parts. So, and that is what we are going to look at, the critical part method. The critical part method will help us to understand this critical part very well. These are the areas where the risk lies in our project, and we don't want that kind of risk as project managers. It's something we want to be in charge. You want to be in charge of our project. You want to be in control. And the easiest way for you to be in control of your project is to know the critical part in your project. We call it critical. All of us know what critical means. I'm not going to start telling you the critical is critical. So just know it that way. When people say that something is critical, mean that something is critical. Is a serious situation. So, and what is this critical part method? Let's look at it and understand it more. Critical part method is a technique for identifying log sequence of tasks in project, critical parts that absolutely must be completed on time for the project to finish on schedule. Delays in any critical part task will delay the entire project. So you see, that's why I highlighted this particular statement. If there is any delay in any of this critical part area, it will, even if it's 1 day, even if it's 1 day delay, it's going to impact on everything we've done. So that's why we're trying to understand critical parts. So what's the benefit of this critical part? It helps to improve focus on critical tasks that drive project completion. It helps us to be proactive in identifying and mitigation of potential delays or potential, you can call it potential risk. Delay is a risk in project. And evaluate the impact of schedule changes on project duration. So how do we create a critical part method schedule? First, to start to understand these critical parts very well, if you go to project labor, you know I show you critical parts. So that is one thing about these project management tools. It captures everything. It's just for you to understand how that particular software is working. Try to, get the full benefit, the full understanding. You find out that if you master the software, everything in project management, you will have it at your fingertips. And you see everything we'll be talking about since last week, all these techniques, various techniques, you see that one single tool, project management tool, project labor, help us to do that. If you are using Microsoft project, the same thing, it's going to give you the same value. If you are using Primavera, it's going to give you the same value. They are the same, they deliver the same purpose, though from different companies. And so we can use some for enterprise, big enterprise, or you can use some for small and medium enterprise, like Project Labor. We use it for small and medium enterprise. So let's come back to how to create a critical path schedule. Define all project tasks and their duration. Identify dependencies between tasks. Use project management software or manual calculation to determine the easiest start and finish dates for each task. Identify the critical path by finding the sequence of tasks with the least slack, call it float time. So, and this is what we'll be doing all this while. It was like a sequence. We've defined the project tasks already. Like in what we're doing, we're using our work breakdown structure. We created the tasks and then defined the duration. We've added the duration. We've identified the dependencies, and then we are using project management software to do that, which is Project Labor. And Project Labor help us identify the critical parts. So we'll go back to Project Labor so we can see the critical parts. So it's better for us to see it practical. We use this particular example as well. In this example, we say that this is the activity. Activities can be called tasks as well. So when you say activity, we talk about tasks. So if you want to start creating a critical path, we start with activity or task, where we have activity A to G, and then we have predecessors here. You see the predecessors, and then we'll have the time estimate. Well, this is where we apply paths to get the expected time. So, and once this is done, the critical path will be identified. Looking at these predecessors, you see A have no predecessor, and then B again have no predecessor. Yes, it can happen. You can see a situation where two activities can start concurrently without waiting for each other to finish, and they can finish at the same time. So it means that these two activities, they are not depending on each other. That's what it means. So A can start and B can start at the same time. But C cannot start until A and B finish. So that is why We have it here. And D here cannot equally finish, cannot equally start until A finish. And then E here cannot start until B and C finish. These are the critical path areas. So it's something we'll continue to, I know so many of us, when we started this critical path, and that's why I wanted to continue, some of us are struggling to understand it, but the only way for us to continue to understand it is to look at it from different ways, understand it differently, and have a unified understanding as well. So, looking at this critical part here, after all this, we see this is how it's going to look like. It's going to look like this way. This is start. So the critical part here is, you see this one starts here. This one, this is the first A and B here are the first tasks to start. This is the A and B. And here, both of them can start at the same time. And then C cannot start until A, until complete A. And again, D cannot start until we complete this A. And again, E cannot start until we complete C. And again, sorry, until we complete, this is E. E cannot start until we complete C. And G cannot start until we complete E. And E cannot start G. After G, then we finish. But if you look at these areas, we can start D, and D can just finish and we go to F without having to wait for E to finish. We don't have to wait for C to finish, E to finish, G to finish, because it's not a critical area. So with these two does not wait for this. These are the critical path area. So even if there is delays in this particular blue and green areas, it's not going to affect the project. But if there is a delay in these areas, all these red areas, they are going to affect the project. So this is what we want to understand about critical path. It can be a bit confusing, but we need to get it. So I wanted to use another scenario to give another example when we make a food called lasagna. But before then, on this note, the activity B, this note is explaining this critical part. The activity B can be delayed for almost 4 working days without delaying the project. That is activity B. That's why it's not critical part. A delay in this project for around 4, not delay forever, delay for 4 days. So you can delay this project for 4 days without affecting other activities. Other activities everything can work normal as long as there can be a delay. You might delay, you might not delay, but the delay cannot exceed for delaying the project. Likewise, activity D. So you see activity D here, that is activity D. There can be a delay as well. Activity D or activity F can be delayed as well for 4.68 work days without delaying the project. Then look at D and F can be delayed for 2 days and 34 hours without each. Yeah, so if you break this into 2, that is D and F. If you delay them each for 2 days, and this fraction of a day, we are not going to have issues. But if we delay them more than this, then it can affect the project. But the issue is that these areas can be delayed at all. But you see the areas in red color, they cannot be delayed. Any little delay, you delay the whole project. So that is the message I want to pass here about critical path. We've done that, but why I'm using this is that in our projects, nearest project, we didn't have any delay there. So that's why I'm bringing this issue where we have delays. So everything in our own project everything is sequential, no delay. So everything in our own project, they are all critical paths. We can't afford to delay any task within our project. If you look at it very, very well, if you are looking at project labor, if you go to network at project labor, we will still go to project labor. You see it that you cannot delay because everything, you look at everything, they are sequential, they are red color throughout. But in this scenario, you see there is some delays. And that's why you see the delays, they started from here. You see this one can start with this one. Both of them, they have no sequence. So they can start together. Okay, let's look at this critical part from another point of view, from our normal routine, things we do every day, cooking. We are making a food called lasagna. It's an Italian food, and it's very popular here in UK as well. So this food, if you want to cook this food, this is the table. This is the activity, things you need to do. And this is the predecessors. The first thing you need to do is to boil the noodle. You see, boiling the noodle have no predecessor. And then you drain the noodle. So draining the noodle have a predecessor because draining this noodle, you have to boil noodle before you drain the noodles. So that's why the predecessor is 1. Then brown the meat. This brown the meat have no predecessor. You can brown the meat. You can be browning your meat without boiling and draining noodle cannot stop you for. So you can do these 2 concurrently. Then we'll still have here add red sauce. So adding red sauce to the meat. So you can't add red sauce without browning the meat. Then mix cheese fillings. You can mix this on its own without having to brown the meat and without even having to boil. These are another stand-alone activity within this whole task that is not depending on anyone. So then here we have layer the lasagna. For those who knows how to do that, we have kind of lasagna layers. So to do that, first you need to finish draining the noodle. And after draining the noodle, you need to add red. You must have browned the meat and add red sauce. And after then, you must have mixed the cheese fillings. So these are the three activities you need to do. So, and the next one here is bake the lasagna. You cannot bake the lasagna until you finish this lasagna layer. You have to layer the lasagna before you can bake the lasagna. So you see, these are the predecessors and activities of you cooking. So the point I'm making here is that cooking is another big project. You can use your basic cooking experience as a project. And you see the way this thing stands out, the critical parts of what you can do. If you don't do this very well, it's not going to give you a good lasagna meal that you are looking for. This is what you need to do before you can bake a lasagna and it come out very good. Just like the way you manage your project and it comes out very good. So let's look at the flow chart here, which is the critical part for this lasagna. So look at it how it is here. Now, see here we have, this is the flow chart. And here we'll talk about the critical part in this second part, but let's see the flow chart here. The flow chart here, this is the start of the flow chart. And the activities here, the activities we have here is boil lasagna, boil the noodle, brown the meat, and mix the cheese filling. You see three of them here. They are not depending on each other. They are on their own. Looking at it here, you can't see where this one, all these three activities are depending on one another. You can see them here. They are not depending on any of their, so they can stand alone. But you see, as they move, you see draining the meat, you cannot drain, so draining the noodle, you cannot drain the noodle without boiling the noodle. And layer the lasagna, you cannot layer the lasagna without boiling and draining the noodle. And you cannot layer the lasagna without browning the meat and adding the red sauce. And you cannot layer lasagna without adding the cheese fillings. And once you add everything, you can bake and you end. That is the flow chart. For those who are going to be more in business analysis, you are going to be meeting these all the days of your life. So prepare your mind about flow charts. Every activity, you need to model it. Every activity, every process, anything you want to talk to us about, anything you want us to understand as a business analyst, every process, You must model it. That is the easiest way we can understand their language as a business analyst. Okay, let's come to the critical part of this. And you see where we have, first, go back to project network here, see here, and you see these are critical areas. It means this one here, you look at this, and the way it flows, and it flows this way, and it ends. This area here are critical parts. You cannot delay, there cannot be delay when you follow these parts here. As they are going, you cannot, but as these ones here are moving, between them here, this one start, but there can be delay within this area, like few days delay or few minutes, but it can be delayed for some period of time while this one is going on. That's why we are not seeing it as critical parts, because this is the critical part where these activities are going on. There can be bits of delay, although there is a sequence here, but there is a bit of delay. It can be delayed and it's not going to affect the overall project. Because this delay can be contained within this area. This area covers any delay that can happen within these two sequence of activities. That doesn't mean it's going to be delayed forever, but there can be a little delay. But in these red areas, there cannot be delays. No, you can't delay anything here. If you delay anything here, it's going to affect the whole activity. And you see here, mixing the cheese, it will only take you 5 minutes to mix these cheese fillings, only 5 minutes. So you can delay it for a few period of time while this one is going on. To get this to this place takes you 27 to, if you're not seeing it very well, let me scale it up a bit. What I'm saying here is it takes 25 minutes. Look at it here. 25 minutes to boil the noodle. And then it takes 8 minutes to brown the meat. And then it takes 5 minutes to mix the cheese filling. So while this is boiling, while this that's going to take 25 minutes, while it's boiling, you can start doing this as well. You can start browning the meat. And while you are browning the meat, which will take you 8 minutes, you can equally, we call it multitasking. You can equally be mixing the cheese thing. It might not be you might have other people, team members. It might be your son or your daughter or whoever is working with you in the kitchen can be doing this concurrently. All of you can be doing so. You can assign this to someone to be browning the meat and someone to be mixing the cheese while this lasagna noodle is boiling. So all these activities can be going on at the same time. So that is it. They can start at the same time. This one takes 25 minutes. While it's 25 minutes, you can do this as well. This is just 8 minutes. And this is just 1 minute. Adding red sauce is just 1 minute. So even if you delay adding the resource on this lasagna by 5 minutes, it's still not going to affect, because you still have to wait for 25 minutes in order to finish boiling this. And while you can do this in 5 minutes, why it can take you 5 minutes to mix these cheese fillings, you can delay this by even 10 minutes. It's not going to change anything, even if you delay it by 10 minutes, because anyway, this is going to take 25 minutes. It's only when you are delaying these two activities, any of these two activities by anywhere 25 minutes, then you see that it's going to start affecting, because by then you must have finished boiling this and draining the noodle. So this is the logic why these areas are not critical. You see them here. These 25 minutes of boiling the noodle and draining the noodle have overridden all the time you can take to do all these things, meaning that you can assign this for people to do it. After all, boiling noodle and draining noodle have no correlationship with brown the rest. Where all of them meet is when you have to mix all of them together here before you can bake. So that is it. That's how the critical part was here. It just so I have to use another scenario for us to understand this critical part. Once you understand it, you can apply it anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's in IT project, whether a construction project, anywhere. The main thing is understand how it works. So determine the start time and end time for the task. All the time, the task immediately after start will begin at 0. So all this time, what it means that all these tasks here, all the start tasks here will start at 0. The task that follows will begin when their last predecessors end. Looking at here, this one start at 0. You see here 0/25 minutes. It starts at 0 minutes and end by 25 minutes. This one start by 0 minutes, end by 8 minutes. This one start by 0 minutes, end by 5 minutes. So it just takes 25 minutes, 8 minutes for they can start at the same time, but this one lasts longer. And the one that lasts longer, this is where the critical parts are going to be. And another task start immediately. This one, like this one, 25 minutes. So this particular draining will start at the 25th minutes of the project and end at 27 minutes. It's only going to take 2 minutes. And you see the other one following this particular part is a part, but it's not critical. It starts at the 80th minute, adding the red sauce start at 80th minutes of this task and end in 9th minutes. It's just only 1 minute. And this one here is just 5 minutes. And following this part here, anyway, this critical part has overridden this. So while we are deciding this one, we are looking at draining the noodle, because draining the noodle is a longer part, which is critical. So this is just 12 minutes, but it can only start when the noodle is drained. So that is it. So that is all we can say about critical path method. So take home is you have to understand it. I tried to use different scenario to shed light on this using the most common activities, which is kitchen, cooking. So if you understand it, forget it. You can apply it anywhere. So that is what we mean by critical parts. So first here, we use this is the flow chart. And this is the critical part in this. So I will go to project labor. We'll look at critical parts again. So you can, if you are working with project labor, where you can find your critical part of every activity. So tomorrow, we are going to be looking at baselining your project plan. So that is what we are going to be doing tomorrow. So I'm going to be leaving our lecture note now to go to project labor. That's why I'm just introducing what we are going to do for tomorrow. So which you can equally be achieved through project labor. But let's move quick to project labor and see where we can find our critical parts. Now we're in project labor. Where do we find our critical parts? So what do? We go to task. From the task, like in project labor, we know this is a Gantt chart. We treated Gantt chart today, so this is it. And see the sequence here. We've already done that. But if you want to look at critical parts you need to go to network. If you are looking or searching for critical parts, you might not see it. So all you need to do is network. If you want to see the work breakdown structure, this is work breakdown structure, is well stated here, WBS. But then they didn't say critical parts here. They use the word network. So let's click on network. So from network here, you can see the critical part area. This is where it starts, and this is the part it follows. So this is it, and this is the end. That is the activities, the flow of activities. So the point here is that this software covers everything from project scheduling. This is it. We'll start from everything we do. We'll start from project scheduling. Like when we start, we say list your activities or list your tasks. Add the duration, the start and the finishing date. Add the predecessor. Once you add them, the Gantt chart will appear and the critical part will appear as well. So, and then even still in this project labor, when you do all these things, then you come here and assign resources. And after assigning resources, you baseline them. So this is the baseline we're talking about. This is where the baseline in project labor is. And after this, we equally talk about calendar here. This is the calendar. You can create a calendar, but we have to do calendar after baselining. So you see that everything you need, you have it in this very simple software if you know how to use it. So we are going to stop by this line so that we do not overstuff ourselves. We take it step at a time. But by the time we finish the baseline, and we must have finished everything about project planning. And once you know how to plan a project as a project manager, you're already a project manager. The other thing is then try to know how to mitigate your risk, try to communicate with your stakeholders and things like that. So
Sorry, can you just quickly share your screen again and show us how you went to the critical part?
okay.
You go to network.
Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. This is where this is where we stopped. We managed to, if you are following, we managed to create our activities here under stages, initiate stage and define stage. We add duration, start and finish. We have add predecessors. We equally assign resources. Now it's like we have finished everything, but we still need to understand the critical parts. This is you being proactive, understanding the areas you need to be careful. And to do that, you go to network. It's not written, if you need to, although the is a recorded video which you need, but if you need to write a note, you say that if you want to go to critical parts, you go to network. If you want to go to project breakdown structure, you click on this, you see project breakdown structure here in project labor. So it gives you everything here. You see the structure here is this project breakdown structure. If you want to go to critical part, you go to network. You see that is it here. And that's it. You see the critical part. That is the critical part. That's how you need to do. You see the activity you need to, it means you need to finish this initiate stage before you come to define stage. And that's why you see under define stage, there is no activities. But if, for instance, we change this sequence, you can see the so activities will come under this. If we change this sequence here, if you come back here and change this sequence here, like for instance, let's see this 7. Let's see what I'm going to what will happen if we change this 7 and see what will happen. Meaning that you can do this number 1 and then do market research at the same time. Let's look at it and see what happened to our critical parts. Can you see the change here? You see the Gantt chart already have changed as well. You see this critical, this is no longer depending on this. You see here, can you see that?
Yes.
So I've disrupted the dependency of define stage and initiate stage. It means that define stage is no longer depending on initiate stage. And you can see here that activity here, they can start at the same time again. But because of the fact that this is a longer duration, we have critical parts here, but we do not have critical parts in this area. Let's go to critical part. Let's go to network. If you go to network, you can see there is a change. You see all the activities here can start this define stage and initiate stage and define stage can now start at the same time. And see the sequence. But if you, as you are looking at it, one is critical and one is not critical. Why? Can anybody answer the question?
Initiate is critical because it will take longer time before to be completed before define stage.
Okay, the initiate have a longer time. Is that what you said? Can you answer your question again? You made a point.
I said initiate is critical because it will take longer time to be completed before define stage.
Yes.
It means that define stage can be delayed a little.
Yes, you are right. So you see here, the duration, let's look at the duration here. Why, you see, initiate stage is 12 days and define stage is 10 days. So you can delay this by even like 1 day, activities in define stage by 1 day. And it means that this project is going to end by 12th day, according to this, because this is the longer duration, 12 days. This can be delayed a little while this one is going on. So it's no longer critical. But you mind the delay, because we say delay doesn't mean you can, everything can be, the delay can just be within fractions. So this is the critical, but if we go back here and sequence it and say 7, you see, and if we go to network, you see, and that is it. So that is how it works. I hope you are clear now.
Yes, I am. Thanks.
All right. And that's it about critical parts. And
Cecilia, mute yourself.
all right. So if you still have any question you want to ask based on our class or our topic, good. I will have Adora's raising hand.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Charles. So my question is, can it always be said that the longest critical part in a project will determine the schedule of that project?
I don't get it. Longest critical part determine the schedule. How?
Because what makes it critical, from what I understand, what makes it critical is it has the longest number of days, so you need to complete this task within this time.
That's not what he
So what
said.
I'm asking,
Yeah, go on.
so that's my understanding. Please, Chidima, do not interrupt. So what I'm asking is, if the longest critical part in a project, because it would usually have the longest number of days, and you have other projects that could be delayed because you are able to complete them before that critical part. So does the critical part usually determine the schedule, the time that it takes to complete, whether it's a phase or a project?
Well, the main thing is for you to understand the project timeline. The determinant is the main project timeline, not the critical part. You know, we have, if the project is, at times they will tell you the project, if they give you a specific timeline for a project, for instance, That's what so many organizations do. They tell you this project is a 6 months project. So everything you work, the time, so that it will be the factor that will determine the duration of the project. The stakeholder have said this is the duration. But if the stakeholders do not tell you the duration, then if you are given a blank check for you to determine how long the project is going to last, then you still need to consult every other person to determine how the project duration by applying parts to determine how long everybody using best approach for everybody to determine how this project. So you have to start assigning date, duration for every project. After assigning duration for every project, then you start looking for dependencies. What are dependencies? You start looking for which one can start concurrently. You need to use your initiative within the project team and see who can start projects without depending on one another. Those who can start their activities immediately can jump in. So by that time, when you put the sequence, you see the project. So you cannot say the critical part determine. You don't use that to determine. The critical part guide you to know I want to use the right language so that you don't go as, please, Toby, if you are not speaking, put yourself on mute. So don't say that I said that critical part determine the duration. I didn't say that, and it cannot be. So the critical parts help you to understand the areas you cannot delay. That's what the critical part is. You know areas you cannot delay. Other areas can be delayed if you have found the area of critical, but you need to find areas that cannot be delayed. The area cannot be delayed is the critical part, but it doesn't determine the duration of the project.
Okay, well understood now. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Joy is in me.
Okay, good evening, sir. Sir, please, is Gantt chart the same as roadmap?
Roadmap is a plan. Gantt chart is not the same as a roadmap. Is just a nickname. There's nothing like physically say roadmap. You know, roadmap is the right word to use is plan. Roadmap is just a plan. So Gantt chart is not a roadmap. You can say roadmap is a plan. Are you getting it? You can exchange. You can substitute plan with roadmap, but not Gantt chart. I've said what Gantt chart is, and that is what it is.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Joy Ndukwe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles. So I'm trying to thank you. You've really explained the critical part and I understand it. But I want to know the difference between this. Is this critical part the longest task or is it the hardest task? Is it the task that takes more resources and more effort to accomplish?
Is the task that you cannot delay. That's what critical means. You cannot delay. It doesn't mean it's going to take more resources. It doesn't mean that it's more complex, but they say that you cannot delay that area. Simple. If you are working in that area, it cannot be delayed. It doesn't mean if they are paying the person doing the task the smallest amount of money, or it doesn't mean if they are paying the highest paid person is working on that part. Critical part means that area cannot be delayed. If you delay any activity within the critical part environment, it's going to delay the overall project timeline. And you wouldn't want that.
It's just about the time. That's all. Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Innocent Divya.
Good evening, Mr. Charles. Thank you very much for the lectures. Please, I want to get a kind of clarity on this part. The time you were explaining the Lasana chart, you made explanation that the laying of the layer does not depend on, it only depends on predecessor number 2, number 4, and number 5. So, but from the chart, I think it's connected to number 1. So I'm having a kind of confusion there. So it's not dependent on number 1.
I didn't say it did not depend on number 1. But I said it can only start when this one finish, because he's waiting. He has to wait for that one to finish. So because the other one can be done within a short period of time, is already done. But the only one is waiting for is the longest duration, because you cannot start doing it until that one finishes, because the other ones are finished already. So it's no longer waiting for that other ones, the shorter duration to start, for it to start. You have to wait for the last one, that is the critical part area, that has longer duration to finish. Are you getting it? It has to wait for the critical area, because it cannot start when the shorter duration starts. Okay. Because everyone is still have to wait for the longer duration to finish. That is the critical part. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir. Yes,
so everybody is waiting for that longer duration. And that is why the shorter duration, which is not critical part, can be delayed without affecting the project timeline. We are talking about timeline here. You know, we're not talking about what we are talking about, timeline. This is the major problem we're having in project, timeline. A project that's supposed to finish in 2 months, you don't want it to finish in 3 months or 4 months. So you have to plan this. These are the major problem we're having in project management. When the project is extended, it has a knock-on effect. Knock-on effect is that you need more, as you are talking for extension of timeline, you are equally begging for budget. Because if you add 1 month, you have to pay the people that work for that 1 month. So it comes with a lot of difficulties. We might say timeline as very simple, but timeline is a lot in project management. And a lot of people will want it to extend, because the more extension, the more money. The time we've done stakeholder analysis, I was telling you about the operatives. They will want the timeline to extend, but you wouldn't want it to extend, because as it is extending, that is more money. And the staff here, some of them don't care. They don't know what is resting on your head, you know, because your job might be on the line if you are extending the timeline. But for them, even if they bring another project manager, they are still there. So that is it. Like I said, the shorter duration still connects to the task, but that task cannot start when the shorter duration ends. It can only start when the critical part, which is draining the noodle, which is 27 minutes, the 27th minute of that project. So that is it. But you see, the other shorter duration will have 9 minutes. It cannot start within that 9 minutes. You have to start when you finish draining the noodle. That's when you have to start adding other ingredients, have meat, you have sauce, all these other things together, and that's it. So And that's it for tonight. Tomorrow we continue from where we stopped tonight. Tomorrow we are going to continue from baselining. And thank you for your audience.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Charles.
Mr. Chuku.
Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
you, Mr. Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Thank you, Mr.